Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS Report. I am your host, Brock Seguin. Thank you all for tuning in on this Tuesday afternoon, January the 11th. Apologies for being a few minutes late. My father-in-law needed a hand next door. Had to run over there, give him a quick hand, make it back as soon as I could. So we got 7 games slate in our hands. I see people were looking for the DraftKings link. Unfortunately, it's already full. Good news is it filled up pretty quickly this afternoon. So I only did 15 people tonight. It's good news. I can probably up it to 20 tomorrow, and we'll keep going. So for Michael and Graham, who both missed out tonight, there will be one again tomorrow. Tomorrow's video link will be posted first thing in the morning on this YouTube channel. It will be in the description of that channel. So if you're not doing anything in the morning, stop on in and join in the morning. We'll do $5 again tomorrow. We'll do 20 people, see if we can fill that up and just keep going up until we can't fill it anymore. So only 15 people tonight. We'll make sure that we can fill it up tomorrow with some more people. So let's start with tonight's 7-game slate. With the goalies here, we've got the Columbus Blue Jackets hosting the Chicago Blackhawks. It's going to be Jonas Korpisalo for the Blue Jackets, Marc-Andre Fleury for the Chicago Blackhawks. We're expecting to see Sergei Bobrovsky for the Florida Panthers, and Thatcher Demko starts for the Vancouver Canucks as they play for the first time in a long time. The Buffalo Sabres will go with Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen against the Tampa Bay Lightning, who will counter with Andrei Vasilevskiy. Unclear who starts in the Nashville, Colorado game, but it's almost certainly going to be the red-hot UC Saros versus Darcy Kemper, who did not start last night. For the Vegas Golden Knights, it should be Robin Lehner, but again, unconfirmed, so wait until warm-ups for sure. 9:30 p.m. Eastern for goalie confirmation there. Jack Campbell goes for the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Ducks did not confirm a goalie today. We do know for sure that it will not be John Gibson. At least as of this moment, he did not clear COVID-19 protocol, so it will either be Anthony Stolarz or Lucas Dostal for his second straight start. I would imagine it's Stolarz. Dostal played pretty well in his NHL debut, but Stolarz has been very, very solid for them this season, so I would imagine it will be him. Tristan Jarry goes for the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Sharks will go with Adin Hill, most likely against Alex Nedeljkovic for the Red Wings. Thomas Gray started their last game. Nedeljkovic is the clear-cut number 1 in Detroit these days. So yeah, it should be Nedeljkovic for the Red Wings. I'm just going to try to brush you guys all up on some of the injury news really quickly too, so I don't have to answer it all later. For the Blackhawks, the biggest issue tonight is no Jake McCabe and likely no Seth Jones. I don't know, unless it's been confirmed in the last half hour that Seth Jones did test positive. The reports are that he was positive for COVID-19 and will not be available. So they're missing their top pairing tonight. They're also missing Eric Gustafsson on the back end. So it's a real hodgepodge unit on the blue line for the Blackhawks tonight. The Panthers will get Sam Bennett back from suspension. They'll also get Sam Reinhart back in the lineup. Huge news for them. The Canucks are pretty much fully healthy after a lengthy break. The Sabres are missing a ton of key pieces. They're really shorthanded, including Tage Thompson out with COVID-19. For the Lightning, Ryan McDonough, game time decision, but not expected to play. Ross Colton back in. Phil Forsberg still not expected to play for the Predators. Andre Kash back in the lineup for the Maple Leafs on the top line. The Ducks are pretty much nearing full health. They'll get Hampus Lindholm and Derek Grant back tonight. The Penguins lose Zach Aston Reese and Brock McGinn, but Evgeny Malkin ready to make his season debut. For the Sharks, they'll get Logan Couture and Erik Karlsson back. The Red Wings will be missing Dylan Larkin. I don't think I missed anything there, and at least in terms of the key injuries. That was all just off the top of my head, so hopefully I did okay. Implied totals tonight. The Florida teams. We got the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning both coming in as the highest implied totals on tonight's slate at 4.0 each. The Colorado Avalanche closely behind at 3.5. Then a bunch of teams in the middle: Pittsburgh, Toronto, Chicago, Nashville, San Jose. The Blue Jackets at 3 goals and the Golden Knights at 3. And then a couple teams under 3 tonight. We've got the Canucks, the Red Wings, the Ducks, and the Sabres. Thoughts on a Malkin Crosby stack? What are the expectations for Malkin this evening? I'll get to that in a little bit. I'm not super high on him, but we'll get to those in a little bit. I don't know if you really necessarily need to stack those two together. In terms of Crosby, though, absolutely love him, as we see here. Based on the 5v5 score tonight, Sidney Crosby, Evan Rodriguez, and Jay Gensel grading out as the best line to target on tonight's slate. 22,000 to full stack them, though. They also correlate 100% on the top power play unit as well. Malkin makes his season debut at 5,000 for the Pittsburgh Penguins. San Jose Sharks will go with Barabanov, Hurdle, and Timo Meier on the top line. They grade out exceptionally well. Toronto 1 tonight is Michael Bunting, Austin Matthews, and Andre Cash. They look really, really solid in Las Vegas. Colorado 1. We're projecting to see Valerie Nichushkin on Colorado 1 tonight. It was Andre Burakovsky to start last night. They shuffled the first and second line, leading to Nichushkin moving up. So we're projecting to see him to continue to play there. Obviously, they moved him up. They made that comeback. So I would imagine they'll start with the same lines they finished. Doesn't necessarily mean they won't change mid-game, but Nichushkin should start there. Palat, Point, and Kucherov for the Tampa Bay Lightning will round out the top 5. Let's go game by game here. We'll start up top with the Blackhawks and the Columbus Blue Jackets. In this game, none of these lines really look all that great. The top line for the Blackhawks does grade out the best. They're very, very cheap. But I don't know. Well, let's break it down from a little bit more of a matchup perspective. The way the lines, are currently constructed for the Blackhawks actually bodes pretty well for them defensively. The lines look solid in terms of at least not giving up too many scoring chances. The problem is that they're not really generating anything offensively at all either. So with basically no blue line tonight for the the Chicago Blackhawks, I don't really like the Blackhawks on this slate. They're just not a team that scores a lot of goals unless they're playing Arizona and then they still lose. They're just not a team that I target very often. They just don't do enough at 5v5. If we take a look at the power play tonight, they do grade out with the 8th best power play advantage, right around middle of the pack. Their power play is well below average, though. They're just going up against a bad penalty kill. So I just don't really have any interest here. If you take a look at the price here, Patrick Kane's still 7,000. Sure, his line mates are cheap, but it just, without playing with DeBrincat, if it was DeBrincat and Kane together to start, I would have a little bit more interest perhaps. But on a 7-game slate, I think there's many, many better spots than what the Blackhawks have to offer because they just don't do a whole lot at 5v5, even with a pretty good matchup against a Blue Jackets team that isn't very good defensively. On the flip side, the Blue Jackets, again, the way that their lineup's currently constructed, not great offensively either. And the matchups certainly don't look that appealing the way that this Blackhawks team it looks right now. But given the issues on the Blackhawks blue line tonight, there's got to be some interest there. I am a little bit I'm drawn towards the top 6 of the Blue Jackets. Bjorkstrand at 4,800 is a terrific price. To full stack that line, just 11,300. Cole Sillinger, 2,800. Voracek, who just continues to pile up assists, 3,700. Very, very cheap. The top line, not much more expensive. Patrick Laine, just 5,300. Jenner, 5,500. And Nyquist, 2,700. To be completely honest with you, the second line looks a little bit more appealing just because the matchup is a little bit better. 47% of their ice time coming against Chicago 2, which is just a lot worse defensively. They're still not bad, but they're a lot worse defensively than the way Chicago 1 has played as of late. So if I had to pick, I would probably go with Columbus 2, which is the Bjorkstrand line. But I don't think you can really go wrong with Columbus 1. Like, just keep in mind, I don't really grade out what these defensive pairings are doing. And while you can boast these kind of defensive numbers with a healthy unit, when you take your best defenseman, your entire top pairing out of the lineup, there's, surely your defensive numbers will not continue to be sustainable, at this level. So I think the Blackhawks are in trouble tonight without their entire top pair, without Eric Gustafsson. They're really digging deep into the taxi squad to ice a competitive blue line tonight. So I'm not, enamored with Columbus 1 or Columbus 2, but I think both lines are firmly in play. They won't see a ton of ownership. I just think that, there's probably safer and better spots out there. But I think if you're looking, if you're building a lot of lines, sprinkling these guys in here and there, I don't think is a terrible idea. Second game of the night, you got Florida and Vancouver. Similar to kind of what I said about Seattle yesterday, if you're coming off a long layoff, the last team in the NHL you probably want to play is Colorado. Maybe the last team you actually want to play is the Florida Panthers, especially with Bennett and Reinhart back in the lineup tonight. The Panthers are just firing on all cylinders right now. And this is, they're running into a buzzsaw. tonight. Obviously, Vancouver has played extremely, extremely well since hiring Bruce Boudreau, but they have not faced the Florida Panthers yet, to my knowledge. So they're going to be in a lot, in some hot water tonight. And honestly, the Panthers aren't overly expensive. They're very, very affordable. The only concern with the Florida Panthers is Thatcher Demko. But this top line, Carter Verhaeghe, coming off a great week. He's just 4,300. Reinhart right back to the top line, 5,500. He's been on an absolute fire since the end of November. Huberdeau is just on an absolute heater, 7,100. He's him and Barkov are the only ones that are even moderately expensive, and they're both obviously worth it. Bennett at 6,000, Duclair at 4,700. I mean, these two lines, both right around $17,000 to full stack. Both terrific options tonight. There's really no reason to dislike either one of them. In terms of the matchups, like I said, the Canucks have obviously been a lot better under Bruce Boudreau, so the matchups aren't outstanding, but they're still fine. The top two lines have the best matchups on this in this game, I should say. Going up, it'll be the Barkov line against this top line for the Canucks, which is their worst defensive line. So if I had to pick one, I would pick Florida 1, and then Florida 2 is going to see a lot of the middle six, particularly the third line, which is the Canucks' second worst defensive line. So if I had to pick here, it would be Florida 1. The offensive numbers basically splitting hairs at this point, almost identical numbers, which is just, outrageous considering how good they are. So yeah, Florida 2 certainly still in play for me, no doubt about it. Florida 1, definitely a little bit more interested in them though. So pick and choose your spots here. They are a little bit cheaper. The matchup's a little bit better. The numbers are almost identical, but both lines I think have a pretty equal chance of popping off tonight. I do like Florida 1 and Florida 2 a lot. I'm probably not going to play the Canucks. The matchup obviously not very good. The Panthers are a very, very good defensive team. Have they had some lapses recently and given up plenty of goals? 100%. They've been playing in some ridiculously high-scoring games. So a game stack here certainly isn't out of the question, but shaking off a little bit of rust is what the Canucks are going to be doing early on in this game, and then they're basically just going to be trying to survive, I would imagine. Obviously I was a little bit wrong about the Avalanche just crushing the Kraken tonight, so I could certainly be wrong about this one tonight. But as we said off the top, the implied total suggests that the Panthers are going to go in there and take care of business tonight. So not a whole lot of interest in the Canucks. I think that there is some other contrarian options that you can fall into tonight. This one certainly is not one that I'm in love with, though. So we'll move on actually quickly. Power plays. Neither team really all that great. Both teams pretty mediocre on the kill and on the power play. So not a huge advantage either way. I will say this, though. Obviously, this power play number is not very good from the Florida Panthers. And this unit has got to get it figured out eventually, right? You got Barkov, you got Huberdeau, you got Ekblad, you got Bennett, you got Reinhart, you got Duclair. Like, at what point does this unit just get it going? You'd have to imagine it's pretty soon. So while they don't grade out particularly great tonight, they're going up against a penalty kill that is not very, very good. So tonight could certainly be a night where everything kind of clicks. And yeah, obviously if you want to build some weird lineups, I am not against a Florida Panthers onslaught stack tonight by any stretch. All right, this third game of the night, we've got the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Buffalo Sabres. You've got Tampa Bay 1, 2, and 3 grading out at the top. Buffalo 2, 1, and 3 underneath. So as I mentioned off the top, the Buffalo Sabres really, really banged up right now. No Alex Tuch, no Tage Thompson, among others. I think no Kyle Okposo. Who else are they missing? No Peyton Krebs, no Casey Middlestat, obviously. So yeah, this lineup just doesn't look very good. Jack Quinn, obviously pretty interesting. He's been absolutely ripping it up at the AHL level. But he'll make his NHL debut on a line with Dylan Cousins. It's just not really a matchup where I'm like, hey, let's punt one of the best prospects in the game right now tonight. It just doesn't really seem like the night to do it. That Andre Vasilevskiy starting a almost fully healthy Tampa Bay Lightning team. This is just not the night. Maybe if Jack Quinn gets a couple more games, there's going to be an opportunity to play him down the road tonight. Probably not the night. Obviously, I've played Buffalo quite a bit this year when Tage Thompson is in the lineup. Without Tage Thompson, I really don't have that much interest. Without Alex Tuch, I really don't have much interest. So this top line for Tampa looks terrific tonight. 4,900 for Andre Palat. Way too cheap. Braden Point, 7,300, too cheap. Then you've got, this is hilarious. Let's make that, oh my God, how long is this guy's name? Braden Point, 7,300, probably right around where he should be. Kucherov at 6,800, though, is far too cheap. So at 19,000 a full stack, then there's really no reason to dislike Tampa Bay 1. They could be, and I wouldn't be shocked if they're the highest owned line on the entire slate. I really would not be surprised if that's the case tonight. For them, they're going to see a lot of the top line and a lot of the third line for the Buffalo Sabres. That grades out to the best matchup for the entire Tampa Bay Lightning team. And then when you take a look at the underlying numbers here, they're really the only line that is very good at 5v5. I shouldn't say very good. The other three lines are right around league average or slate average, I should say. The top line is just outstanding, though. Almost 3 expected goals for per 60, 34 scoring chance, 11 high danger. Amazing defensively. So as I mentioned, they're going to see a lot of this top line, which is pretty solid defensively, but the third line is not. So this is a matchup where the Lightning can absolutely crush the Sabres. I don't think I need to, really sell you on a $6,800? $6,800 Nikita Kucherov. I don't think I need to sell you on him against the Buffalo Sabres. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's obviously had some outstanding games. He's also had some so-so performances, so he certainly doesn't scare me off of them. Yeah, like I said, they're going to be pretty high owned, but, for a good reason. The second line, I have a little bit less interest in. Obviously, the matchup is not quite as good. They're going to see a lot of Buffalo 2, which is, not great defensively, but Tampa 2 just really doesn't get a lot going at 5v5. So, yeah, if I would maybe include Stamkos in like a power play stack with Tampa 1, but stacking Tampa Bay 2 as a whole, I think there's better options out there tonight. So, I think Stamkos can obviously get the job done on the power play. At 5v5, though, this line just really doesn't get a whole lot going. On the flip side, again, I'll find you some contrarian options tonight, I promise, but this is, again, not one of those spots. This is just not a good lineup for the Sabres. They are in big, big trouble. All 4 lines grade out below average offensively, going up against a terrific defensive hockey club in the Tampa Bay Lightning. So this is just not a contrarian spot for me, how banged up they are. And as I mentioned off the top, implied totals. At the very top, you got the Tampa Bay Lightning. At the very bottom, you've got the Buffalo Sabres. So I'm not really going off the board here by any stretch, but there's just not a lot to like about Buffalo tonight. Again, I think I played Buffalo more than a lot of people, more than most, more than the average DFS player, but not the spot tonight. Fourth game of the night, the Avalanche and the Predators. This is a pretty interesting game. Obviously, the Avalanche, beautiful comeback last night. The top line really didn't do a whole lot outside of Nathan McKinnon having another 7-shot performance. I think Rantanen got held to like 4.5 DraftKings points, which was shocking. But yeah, 21,900, to full stack them. Certainly they're in play. Obviously, though, the way UC Starwitz has been performing as of late, I'm not in love with Colorado 1 tonight. I think that, just how expensive they are. I think there's just other spots. I would rather play Toronto 1 at 17,000, right? You're saving almost $5,000 going down to Toronto 1 in probably a better matchup. So in terms of, overall matchup, not very good for Colorado 1. They're going to see a lot of the third line of the Nashville Predators tonight. Nashville is on home ice. They're going to dictate the matchups here. Third line, not very good offensively, but very, very solid defensively. What they do is just, forecheck hard and take the fun out of hockey, basically. So that, it's going to be a relatively tight checking matchup going up against Colorado 1 tonight. Obviously, they can go off on any single slate, but if there's one where I could maybe get behind fading them, it's this slate. UC Saros has been outstanding. I like Toronto. I like San Jose. I like Tampa Bay. I like Pittsburgh all more than what you're getting out of the Avalanche tonight. Plus, it's a back-to-back where they had to travel. I think on the broadcast last night, they said a stat, something like the Avalanche are undefeated on the second half of back-to-backs, but have performed poorly on the front end of back-to-backs. I don't know. I didn't check to make sure that was true. That's what they said on the broadcast, but something like that. So yeah, again, they're obviously in play, but at that price, I just think that there's much better spots. The Avs are really, really good defensively. The goaltending has been suspect, but it's hard to get excited about the Predators tonight just because Philip Forsberg's not in the lineup. If you take a look at their matchups, they're bad across the board. It's really hard to pinpoint who you'd really want to play in this spot, right? Slightly above average, you've got Nashville 1. Tolvanen's too cheap at 3,000 on the top power play. I mean, I guess you could punt this line 9,500. They're going to play a ton. So yeah, I think they're a decent contrarian option if Kemper continues to struggle. I just think that they're going to have to get lucky. There's probably other other lines, but at 9,500 to stack a top line that's going to play as much as they're going to play, you could probably do worse at that price point, but I mean, you can definitely do worse at that price point. But it's just not a good matchup. And then, Nashville too, obviously Tanner Jeannot's had an outstanding rookie campaign. It's a nice spot for him, but it's not a good matchup. And without Philip Forsberg, I just really don't have a lot of interest here in the Predators. I skipped over this game. The sixth biggest power play or best power play advantage on the slate goes to the Lightning. Again, this power play is just going to keep getting better and better and better as with Nikita Kucherov back in the lineup, going up against the Buffalo Sabres penalty kill. It's not very good. The Avalanche power play is very solid. The Predators penalty kill is not great. Overall, third best power play advantage is for the Avalanche. The fifth best power play advantage goes to the Nashville Predators, whose power play has slipped below average as of late, but going up against a Avalanche penalty kill that has not been all that great. I have no idea what that says, so I'm not even going to try to read it. Fifth game, the the Maple Leafs and the Golden Knights. I mean, the top six for both teams here grade out very, very well. The Maple Leafs have obviously been a pretty stout defensive hockey club throughout the season. Obviously a big slip up the other night against the Avalanche. They're going to run into another good team tonight in the Golden Knights. Obviously, the Golden Knights not nearly as good without Max Pacioretty. This top line the new top line of Marchessault, Karlsson, and Smith has stepped up pretty well. Let's take a look at the matchups because, it does look like a game where they could get pretty high scoring. It's basically going to be the Karlsson line against the Tavares line, the Stevenson line against the Matthews line, and then the bottom six will see quite a bit of each other. So, pretty easy game to break down. Let's start with the Matthews line. Obviously, they grade out the best. Really, really good. One of the best offensive lines on the slate. 37 scoring chances for 16 high danger. They're outstanding. As I mentioned, they're going to see a lot of this Stevenson line, which is just above the slate average in terms of defense. They're pretty good. They're not nearly as good without Mark Stone, but Evgeny Dadonov, without Max Pacioretty, but with Evgeny Dadonov stepping in, he's been solid. So without Marner, without Marner or Nylander on that wing now, the defensive numbers certainly take a hit for Matthews with Cash and Bunting on his wings. It's weird because Cash is a pretty reliable two-way player, but for some reason the defensive numbers have been on the decline. Maybe it's just because they're not spending quite as much time in the offensive zone. I don't know what the explanation is for it because Cash is definitely a reliable two-way hockey player, but defensively just not nearly as good. So I think that puts that Stevenson line in play. Like I said, I think this game gets pretty high scoring. I really do. At 13,900, it's really affordable. And I don't think that they're going to see a ton of ownership. I really don't. So Dadonov, Stevenson, Stone, I think is a pretty decent stack tonight at their price point. And are they my favorite? Not by a long stretch, but at 13,900, if you're building a lot of lineups, I think you could do probably a lot worse than that. On the flip side, they've been pretty solid defensively, but it's going to be really, they're going to have their hands full here with this Maple Leafs top line. So hopefully if these Maple Leafs, if this Maple Leafs top line numbers hold up, it looks like it could be a pretty high event game. Or high event matchup, which would bode well for both lines, obviously. The top line, as I mentioned, for the Golden Knights has played very, very well, going up against the Tavares line that has struggled mightily defensively, which, again, is a little bit surprising. With Kirkwood on that line, they've been worse defensively. It's certainly a spot where Vegas 1 is in play. I think that they could have some success here. Obviously, Vegas 1 struggled a little bit defensively as well, which puts Tavares' line in play. So if I had to pick, I would pick both teams' top lines. Which is obviously seems like a cop-out, but based on the matchups, it's just the way the numbers work. I think the second lines are both in play, but I think that both top lines are the better plays in this game. They're obviously more expensive. They're obviously going to be higher owned, particularly Toronto 1. So if you want to pivot, I think it's fine. Alex Kerfoot's been red hot. I wouldn't read too much into that. Like, I don't think Alex Kerfoot is this offensive dynamo that's just a must play at 2,900 by any stretch. He's one bad game from being replaced by Ilya Mikheyev, in my opinion. Obviously, this hot stretch, Kerfoot's not somebody that I'm chasing, I guess is what I'm getting at. I love Cash on that top line at 3,900, so I get drawn towards being able to stack Matthews' line at 17,000. It's just far too cheap. So obviously, I prefer them over the rest of the lines in this game, but I do think Vegas 1's in an okay spot. But again, they're far from my favorite lines tonight. I love Toronto 1. I'll probably sprinkle in some Toronto 1, some Vegas 1, maybe even a little Vegas 2, but Toronto 1 just looks terrific in this matchup. The good thing, or the bad thing, I should say, for Toronto 1 is that the Golden Knights have finally started to play better defensively, which I had been alluding to over the last couple months, and it's finally starting to show up in their numbers, but they're still not amazing defensively, not quite what we saw a year ago or 2 years ago. And, Matthews' line just at that price point is just too appealing to me. In terms of the power play, the best power play advantage on the slate is Toronto. So obviously that helps both Toronto 1 and Toronto 2. They both correlate together on that top power play unit, puts Morgan Rielly in play, obviously. So both lines certainly have a chance tonight. The Golden Knights penalty kill has struggled throughout the season. The Maple Leafs have the best power play on this entire slate. The sixth game of the evening is the Penguins and the Ducks. 22,000 to full stack. Pittsburgh 1. Gensel 7,500. Crosby's 8,400. Evan Rodriguez 6,100. Obviously very, very pricey, but for good reason. They have been insane as of late. And you take out Brian Rust, who was maybe the hottest player last week, and you plug Evan Rodriguez, who's been just as hot, and they don't skip a beat. There's really no reason to not like the Penguins tonight. John Gibson's not in net. And then let's just take a look at the matchup here. They're going to see basically just an even mix of the top 9 of the Ducks. Grades out very, very well. The Ducks, not a very good defensive hockey club. Specifically, the second and third lines have struggled. And then, could these numbers be any bluer? The heat map just fallen in love with Pittsburgh 1. 39, almost 40 scoring chances, 4 per 60, 17 high danger, 4 expected goals, 4 per 60. So they're actually better from an underlying numbers perspective with Evan Rodriguez than they are with Brian Rust. So at 22,000, maybe it helps depress their ownership a little bit. The fact that there's McKinnon and Matthews and Kucherov also on the slate, maybe it helps keep that ownership at a respectable level where you can just cram them in. They are expensive, so hopefully that does happen when you can full stack Toronto for $5,000 less. $5,000. I think, why wouldn't you, right? But Pittsburgh 1's just in an outstanding spot tonight. Going to see all 3 of these lines. Should crush the second and third line of the Ducks. Obviously, it helps that Hampus Lindholm is back in, but without John Gibson, it really doesn't matter. As I mentioned, we talked at the top about Malkin. 2 things in play here. 1, these numbers last season, again, I had to pull obviously Malkin's numbers from a season ago, aren't very good with Kasperi Kapanen. Just 20 scoring chances, 4 per 60, under 8 high danger. The expected goals for per 60 is just 45.2, not good. And then you just got to factor in that this is his first game in a very long time, coming off a very serious knee injury. So, could he get on the scoreboard? Absolutely. He is one of the best point per game players in the NHL in ever. I think he's top 30. I talked about it on my podcast last week. I think he's top 30 in the last 50 years in terms of points per game. Staying healthy is his biggest issue. So, obviously when he's in the lineup, he's going to produce points. In his first game back, sure, at 5,000, I think I could sprinkle him in. Am I in love with it? Definitely not. I like Pittsburgh 1 significantly more, but he is going to be on the top power play unit. If you want to include him with a Pittsburgh stack, I'm fine with that because he's still Evgeny Malkin. He's still only $5,000, so I'm totally fine with it. If you had your heart set on playing Evgeny Malkin tonight, go for it. In terms of the matchups for the Ducks, not great, not terrible either, right around average. The problem is Tristan Jarry has just been outstanding. This is the second line, the Zegras line. That's the line that I would probably look at tonight for the Ducks. It's projected to be Comtois, Zegras, and Ricard Raquel. Pretty appealing line there. Comtois is still on the second power play unit for whatever reason. I figured he would be the net front guy for them, but he's on the second power play unit for now. If they were all on the top power play unit, I would buy in a little bit more. Again, the Penguins have the best penalty kill on the entire slate, though, so it really doesn't matter. It's hard to get interested in the Ducks tonight. It really is. But if you're going to play one, I think the second line, 15,000 to full stack them, 3,200 for Comtois, 6,600 for Zegras, 5,200 for Raquel. Pretty reasonable price there. They're going to see a lot of the Crosby line, but they're going to see a little bit more of the Malkin line and a little bit of the fourth line. And this Malkin line, just slightly above average defensively. The fourth line's really struggled for the Penguins. At least the fourth line they're going to have tonight because they're going to have to shift things around without Brock McGinn or Zach Aston-Reese on that third line. So, I think Anaheim 2 is okay. I might sprinkle them in if I play the late slate. On the full slate, not totally in love with it. But if there was a line that I was going to target from the Ducks, it would be that second line. The matchup is significantly better for them. the Getzlaf line is going to see a little bit more of that top line and a little bit more of that third line for the Ducks or the Penguins. So the matchup not quite as good for the Getzlaf line. All right, the last game of the night, we've got the Sharks and the Ducks. Hopefully our Russian friend has smashed like button. Yes, I hope he did. The top line for the Sharks, which again, let's just pull up their line combinations tonight because you've got Tom Ashertle on the top line, Logan Couture centering the second line in his return to the lineup, Barabanov, Hurdle, Meyer on the top line, Dahlin, Couture, Gregor on the second line. You've also got Erik Karlsson and Ryan Merkley, all three of the offensive defensemen dressing the lineup tonight. So Burns is going to be on the top unit with Hurdle and Meyer. And then Merkley and Erik Karlsson are going to be on the second unit. So yeah, that's a little bit of a change. We were seeing Karlsson on the top power play unit for a long time until he got hurt. Now it's Burns is kind of taken over there. But this line looks outstanding. 30 scoring chances for 16 high danger, which might be the highest on the entire slate. In terms of the matchup, they have the best matchup on the entire slate. They're going to almost go head to head all night long with the second line for the Detroit Red Wings, which is by far the worst defensive line on the entire slate. 35 scoring chances against a 38.6% Corsi for, 34.80 expected goals for percentage. The matchup doesn't get any better than this. They should be terrific tonight. I love Meyer. I love Hurdle. If you want to include Barabanov, that's fine. If he's only 3,800, there's really no reason not to. So yeah, the matchup just cannot possibly be any better for San Jose 1 tonight. For Detroit 1, they still grade out okay, but with Robbie Fabry moving up instead of Dylan Larkin, they're going to have their hands full with this Couture line. The Couture line, for whatever reason, has struggled really, really badly defensively when Timo Meier is not on that line. So the matchup there is fine. I just think they're going to have a hard time getting things going without Dylan Larkin. Robbie Fabry, certainly not Dylan Larkin. Obviously, Tyler Bertuzzi and Lucas Raymond can get the job done. So there's certainly reasonable. It's reasonable to expect them to have a decent night. I'm just think that there's better options around that price, right? 15,800 to full stack Detroit 2. It's only a couple $100 more to stack Toronto 1. A couple $100 more to stack Toronto 2, and the list goes on and on. So I think there's a little bit too expensive given their recent play. But without Dylan Larkin, the numbers are certainly going to take a hit tonight. So not in love with them. Defensively, they're not very good either, which certainly puts the Couture line in play as well. The Couture line will see significantly less ownership than San Jose 1. So San Jose 2 is a pretty nice pivot tonight. They should be relatively low owned. Dahlin doesn't give you much of a floor, but we've seen his upside be pretty solid. Couture, just 5,800 is a really nice price. Gregor provides a pretty solid floor. His shot volume is solid. He's obviously chipped in offensively from time to time. So at 12,500, they're a nice value stack on tonight's slate. So I like the Sharks a lot tonight. I think the Sharks definitely beat up this Red Wings team that has been terrible on the road all season long. The only thing stopping the Sharks from having a big night tonight is Alex Nedeljkovic, which we've seen him have plenty of big nights this season. So that's going to do it for that game. In terms of the power play, neither team very good on the power play, so not a whole lot there. I would rely just solely on the Sharks at 5v5. Sorry, that's my sister. She should not be texting me right now. I would rely on them at 5v5, and then just if anything you get on the power play is just a bonus. In terms of the defenseman tonight, Mackenzie Weegar is still very cheap, or not very cheap, but way too cheap at 4,900. Terrific play. Kukin, not going to see the same amount of ice time as he was, so probably not as good of a play as he looks. Dylan Coughlin's been solid, 2,800. Sure. I think Brian Dumoulin, 3,300. Eric Chernak, 3,200. And where is he? Calvin DeHaan is probably my favorite deep punt of the night. At 2,600, he should see so much ice time without Seth Jones and Jake McCabe. He is also expected to just kind of be a de facto power play quarterback. Whether it's the top unit or the second unit remains to be seen. Most recently, he was on the second unit. Does he move up in the absence of Seth Jones? Maybe. Does it end up being Caleb Jones? Maybe. Either way, we are projecting to see some power play usage for Calvin DeHaan. He's probably going to play 24 minutes. He's $2,600. He's already a shot blocking machine playing 2,600 or playing 18 minutes tonight, at 24 minutes tonight, he should hit that shot block bonus, no problem. The same thing kind of was worked last night when I said, let's play Trevor Van Riemsdyk. He's going to see more minutes with Dmitry Orlov out. He hit a shot block bonus like 18 minutes into the game, and I think he ended up with like 7 block shots and 12 DraftKings points. Like, that's what we're looking for out of Calvin DeHaan tonight. Not probably going to score, probably not going to pick up a helper. If he does, it's a bonus, but he's going to get you 10 points at $2,600. Montour is still solid at 3,100. Ferraro's dropped down to that point where we can play him again, 3,900. There's those middle of the road Avalanche defensemen, whether it's Byram or Gerard, both solid, obviously, guys that can get on the scoreboard. So I think there's a lot of options tonight for you. I think Connor Murphy's fine too. Another guy that should play added minutes tonight. Murphy and DeHaan should probably be the top pair tonight. Another guy that's just a shot blocking machine. So whether it's DeHaan, whether it's Murphy, both of them should be outstanding deep on tonight. In terms of the goaltenders, Andrei Vasilevskiy, unsurprisingly, the most expensive goalie and the highest projected goaltender on the slate at 8,500. Andrei Vasilevskiy. Sergei Bobrovsky comes in number 2 as the second highest priced goalie on the slate. Very, very similar projections. So those two look like the top 2 goalies. Both got very good matchups tonight. As we saw at the start, both of their teams are expected to score 4 goals tonight, according to the sports books. So plenty of opportunity for them to win. Andrei Vasilevskiy sitting at a 75% chance of winning tonight. Bobrovsky 68. The top value play appears to be Jack Campbell at 7,600. A lot of that has to do with the fact that the Leafs are road favorites. They are also playing a Golden Knights team that likes to shoot the puck a ton, so there should be plenty of save opportunities for Jack Campbell at 7,600. So definitely one of the top value plays tonight. Am I brave enough to start UC Saros? Absolutely. Again, UC Saros is a guy that's going to see a ton of shot volume tonight. He is maybe the best goaltender in the NHL right now. And this isn't just right now. This is dating back to like halfway through last season. He has been on an absolute roll. At 7,200, I am not scared to start UC Saros. Am I going to play 100% UC Saros? Definitely not. But we saw this Nashville team ridiculously shorthanded by COVID, and they beat Colorado 5-2 earlier in the season. Admiration, maybe, but it's still UC Saros. So yeah, I am brave enough. 7,200. If you need the salary relief, I'm totally fine with it. Fleury, I don't know if I'm going to get there. I just think that they're going to be in too much trouble without all their blue liners. Nedeljkovic is interesting. If you watch the Kings and the Red Wings over the weekend, I think Nedeljkovic faced 27 shots in the first period. So, another guy that could just probably not going to win, as you can see by the 43% win percentage, but should face 40 shots. So Fleury is still the bare minimum. See, on FanDuel, I'd play Fleury. That's fine. I'm fine with that, but not on here. Not on DK. So yeah, mostly it's going to be, the Vasilevskiy, Campbell, and Saros for me. I don't really see. I think Aiden Hill's fine too without Dylan Larkin in the lineup. 8,100 Aiden Hill. I think Tristan Jarry's fine at 8,000. If you need to come down from Vasilevskiy a little bit, $500. Jarry and Hill are both solid. I would lean towards Jarry a little bit just because he's just the better goaltender, and he's $100 cheaper. So he's a really, really good option as well. So a lot to choose from here, and I think you've got kind of a bunch of different ranges you can choose from. You can go way up to Vasilevskiy if you've got the salary. If you need a middle-of-the-road goalie, you can go to Jarry. If you can't quite afford him, you go to Campbell. And if you need to go towards the bottom, you go to Saros. Those are the 4 that I would recommend tonight. Saros and cash tonight. Yeah, Saros is a little bit more risky in cash, but he gives you plenty of salary relief, so that's fine. I'd probably, I think Jarry's fine in cash. I think even Campbell. Saros is still fine in cash. Don't get me wrong. The shot volume is certainly going to be there. He could stop 38 of 41 and still lose and still have a good night. So, yeah. So that's going to do it for today's show. Please comment below who you think is going to score a hat trick tonight. If your guy scores a hat trick, we will give you a free month of DFO Premium. Smash the like button before you do that, though. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. My hat trick picks for tonight are going to be... I think Timo Meier is going to be my expensive guy. Timo Meier is just an absolute stud. And then my cheap hat trick for tonight is going to be Andre Cash. I love Toronto 1 tonight. I love Cash. I've loved Cash for a couple years now. Finally getting some run, finally healthy. I'm going to go cash as my value, Hattie, my expensive Hattie, Timo Meyer. So comment below who you think is going to score Hattie tonight. If you get it right, free month of DFO Premium. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys back here, same time, same place tomorrow. Have a good one. Good luck.